They say the mountains never forget. Whispers echo through the hollers. Spells are cast with roots and rusted nails, and unseen eyes watch from shadowed trees. In the heart of Appalachia, ancient practices thrive under new names, and magic lives on through whispered lore, unspoken traditions, uninvited visitors. Tonight, we step into a world where seance circles meet smoky ridgelines, where witchcraft and the paranormal walk hand in hand. What secrets are buried in the soils of the Blue Ridge? What monsters still roam these mist-covered valleys? The Appalachian Séance Society is here to tell us. Haley Staack, Megan Mitchell have brought the spirits with them. That's next. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is the Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney. He won't float. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Good evening, Darklings. And remember, tonight is brought to you by Zellman's Minty Mouth Club. If you haven't already signed up for Zellman's Minty Mouth, you got to try it out. These are amazing mints. As a matter of fact, as we've talked about openly on the show in the past, you can be fearful of demons. You can be fearful of things that go bump in the night because there's nothing you can do about that. But bad breath, there is something you can do about it thanks to Zellman's. So just go ahead and get yourself on this. Zellmans.com/P60. You're going to absolutely love these. I promise. I take them with me on the road, and I'm out meeting and greeting a lot of you. I'm doing my very best to smell as minty and good as I possibly can when we have that meeting, and I'm using Zellman's to get me there. When you get the box, you just shake out 2 or 3 of the little mints into your hand, pop them into your mouth. Once the sugar coating is gone, I shouldn't even say sugar, once the minty coating is gone and giving your mouth that fresh blast, you're going to swallow the 3 little caplets down. They're going to continue to do the work, and they're going to go right to the root cause of most bad breath problems, which is in your tummy. That's right, I said tummy. I'm a dad of 11 children and a grandfather of 9. Tummy is the word we use in this household. So try Zellman's Minty Mouth, and you'll never regret that decision. I can promise you that. I'm Dave Schrader. Go check out Zellmans.com/P60. And remember, take care of the sponsors that take care of this show. Let's get jumping in, shall we? We've got some exciting stuff to talk about here, right? As I've been doing this over the last 19 years, I've talked to people from all around the world about some of the strange things I hear. And recently, I heard about a very strange thing that takes place in Appalachia. If you're in the woods, you should never whisper. Why? I don't know. I don't live there. But if you're in the woods and you hear your name called, you should never answer. Why? I still don't know. Why don't you people follow me on this? I've already told you once. I don't know the answers. That's why I brought some guests on tonight that'll give us those answers. And I met these 2 delightful women at the Missouri Paracon. They were very kind, sweet, came over, made sure to take some time to talk and get to know me. And I said, do you guys have the answers to this and much more? And they said, oh, we do, Dave. So I'm putting them to the test. Tonight, they're here with us to try to uncover the monsters and magic of Appalachia. Ladies and gentlemen, let us bring them on right now. First up, we have Haley Staack. Haley, thank you so much for being here this evening.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Dave. I'm so excited to be here.
I can't wait for my front yard and backyard to thaw out so that I can go out and hammer my railroad spikes into the 4 corners of my property to protect myself. I'm going to need an explanation about that, because when I brought home 4 railroad spikes with little runes drawn on them, and my family's like, what kind of craziness are you bringing here? And I said, that's kind of craziness. So we're going to talk about that. Also joining us tonight, Megan Mitchell. Megan, thank you for being here.
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, ladies. Now, let's start off right away. The Appalachian Séance Society. Talk to us a little bit about this organization, what it does, how you put it together. And I don't know which one of you is better suited to begin, so I'll leave it in your capable hands to fist fight it out.
Go ahead, Megan.
So we founded the Appalachian Séance Society in the fall of 2023. And we realized that in our area, we really needed a community of people who could come together and be able to talk about this kind of stuff. It's, in my opinion, that as humans, we're all gifted. And in the area where we live, it's really difficult for people to be able to learn about those things and share those things. And so the Seance Society was a way for us to build that community where it wasn't about a competition of who does what. It's a way for us to all be able to work together and learn from each other and to be able to grow as a community.
Why is it so hard to discuss this openly where you're from?
We are in what I like to call the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Okay.
So on every corner, there is going to be a church. And a lot of the things that we do, things that we talk about are seen as taboo within our community. And so there's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable talking about this with their families. We have people in our group that if their job knew what they did, they would be fired.
Oh, so they frown on drinking the blood of babies? Is that what you're saying to me, Megan? Is that what you do? No, you don't do that. That's
We can only drink the blood of Christ.
oh yes, and eat his flesh. It's delicious. I've tried it. So it's interesting, right? Because you hear about all of the old ways from that area, and it seems to almost be counterintuitive to the religious aspect. How can it be so kind of old ways, mystic and magical, yet still rooted in such high Christianity?
I think over time, there's been such a large disconnect from people and their practices because it was seen before, like granny magic, granny women, they were healers in their community. In Appalachian practices, you use the things that you have. And a lot of these rural communities were cut off from the rest of the world. And over time, I think we've been cut off from those practices. And so it's kind of a reconnection to our roots. I know Haley's been doing that and working with some of her ancestors, and I try to do that as well, and just really connecting with the family that we have here. And I just think over time that that's been kind of weeded out. So it's really that reconnection.
Talk to me a little bit, and I understand I'm not throwing these curveballs at you to try to derail either one of you. I'm trying to get in the heads of listeners and viewers from around the world that have questions about magic and witchcraft, right? There's a certain, I don't know, kind of a stigma associated with that. And, like you said, your religious nature around there is, this is not good. This is not what we do. And then you've got the sect of witches and witchcraft who kind of, it appears, frown upon the younger generation for jumping on the bandwagon, which is so strange to me because you were you were young once too and learned these ways and moved up. I guess what I'm seeing is that drama moves through the paranormal field in every level: witchcraft, paganism, Christianity, ghosts, Bigfoot, UFO. There's derision everywhere we look. But, I'm just curious, when people have this assumption that it's something dark, something mysterious, how do you talk about that, Haley? What's your way of kind of approaching that to destigmatize that for people?
So how I like to approach that is, so in Appalachia, back in the old ways, and the way they would talk about it is you had about 3 different type of people in a community. You had your witches. They were frowned upon because the stigma with them was they worked with the devil. So if you were a witch, you worked with the devil. Then you had your your conjure men and conjure women. I like them the best. They sit. The people in Appalachia, they feared them second. But they also didn't know who they worked for. They did not know if they worked for the devil or God. It depended on the day, what offering was brought, and what was being asked.
Wow.
So again, that depended. So second most feared. Then you had, like Megan mentioned, your healers, your granny women, people that were just picking their herbs. It wasn't called witchcraft. It was healers. And actually what I find so interesting is I don't know where the disconnect fully happened. But actually, like, old Appalachian magic actually uses the Bible. They use the word to speak magic. They use it as their spell book. So again, as we're digging and learning this, we're trying to find where that disconnect went, because it is so rooted in magic that we're still trying to figure out where that disconnect is, because we often, I mean, I've whipped out the family Bible, or not the family, but the Bible, and been like, okay, I'm going to read this verse in Psalms to bring peace for someone. Regardless of my religious beliefs, I know that's a spell book in my work my family's done, so I will continue to use it for those purposes.
Thank you. I want to tell you, that is the first time I've heard somebody, when I've talked about witchcraft, refer to the Bible in a sense that it is a book of spells, which I've often thought. I mean, I grew up Lutheran.
Spell book.
Yeah, I grew up Lutheran and Christian, and reading that, I always thought this book is just a magical text, right? And it's not dark. It's not foreboding. As a matter of fact, Jesus says right in there, right? Have faith, do right, and you can do all the things I can do. Right. I mean, he tells you that the rules are right there to use this. And he is bringing people back from the dead. He's necromancing and talking to the dead. He's healing people. He's making food out of nothing and wine out of water. And we call it miracles in Christianity. Everybody else calls it black magic or magic, right? That it must be something if you're pulling something out of nothing. But even in the Christianity times, it was kind of frowned upon. These miracles weren't always looked at as a thing of God, right? Yeah, every pharaoh had their own sorcerer, every king had their own magician, so that they could create these illusions, do these things, and they were kind of heralded and feared at the same time.
So interesting you say that, because I actually spoke with, I am actually really good friends with a local pastor's wife, and she has created a safe space for me to come to her with questions, because I'm often hit with, you're a witch. There's a verse that says it is better to kill a witch than let them live. So I sent that to her and I said, can you go back to like she said, did you read the Hebrew version? And I said, nope, I've got my old King James Appalachian version here. And so she has studied Hebrew, went back, and she started giggling. She goes, oh, it really does say that. I'm like, I figured. But what she pointed out was, in that time frame that the Bible was written, a lot of kings were actually using witches to do their dark bidding. There's actually dark magic in the Bible of when a priest gave an abortion. I mean, it's literally a spell. He uses dirt, mixes it, it's a whole thing, another topic, but it's all in there. And so again, magic is all seen throughout the Bible and in there very much.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to me, I've talked about it before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again in the future, right? On different programs about witchcraft, is when it benefits someone, it's a miracle, right? But if it's taking you away from the church or making you question, then it's witchcraft. Right? Megan is a healer. She's taking root, she's grinding it, she's putting it. Haley is a dark witch because she's out naked dancing by firelight. So it's in the perception of whoever's seeing it or wants to cast that aspersion on it. But really, midwives also became known as witches, right? Healers became known as witches. And it was an interchangeable term that was just used to, when we no longer had a use for you, or we felt we could get something from you by eradicating you, that was the term that was labeled on you. And it happened to men and women alike. A lot of people don't realize that. They think witch denoted females, but all throughout history, many men were put to death for being witches as well.
Yes, very much so.
Now, one other quick question for you. Is there such thing as a warlock, or is that just from Bewitched?
I've met both. I don't know. They've introduced as both to me.
Right. I think it's funny because I've talked to people rooted in old witchcraft, and they're like, no, there are no male witches called warlocks. That's something that started with the TV show Bewitched, so that they could differentiate men from women and their ways. And then you've got others who know, I'm a warlock, and that's all they know. So that's kind of the way it's stuck. So I've often been curious it seems like you're a very accepting group. So if I want to call myself a warlock and I'm practicing magic, as long as I'm not doing bad things, who cares what I call myself, right? I could be a healer, a midwife, a magician, a sorcerer, a witch, or a warlock.
Exactly. We welcome every practice. The only thing we ask is just respect everyone else's practice.
All right. I like that. Now let's we've gotten a little bit of background on you. Now, when you say it's a seance society, immediately people start imagining all of us sitting around a table holding hands in a dark room as we're trying to call forth the spirits of the past and our ancestors or our guardians. Do you do seances often like that, or was it more for the alliteration and cool sound of the title?
We do seances as well. There's two local places where we do host seances at, and some of them are for our members only. And we use that as kind of a time for everyone to be able to really practice their gifts. And then we do have seances where people can bring non members as well and kind of let them get a feel for what a seance is like, let them see that it's not as scary as how it's portrayed.
Now, wait a
Um,
minute. You said as scary. Does that mean there are times it is scary, just not as scary as movies portray it?
I would say it definitely can be because there's definitely things out there that I'm not going to mess around with. So I'm not going to find out with that.
Okay. All right. But for the most part, a seance is not something that's conjuring evil or dark forces, unless that's what you set the intention to do, right? I think that's important for people to realize. Most, if I understand this properly, most people that run a seance, mediums, psychics, witches, gypsies, whatever you want to call yourselves, most of the time you're putting up kind of a barrier. You're only inviting in the loved ones. You're inviting in what you want to interact with you. Correct?
Yes.
Yes,
So
we
usually oh, sorry. Go ahead, Haley.
go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when we do our non-member seances, that's normally a time when we will say we are bringing in just ancestors, anyone who may have a message for someone at the table. Now, when it is our members only one, we have that at a location where everything is welcome. So we don't tell anything that it can't come through, but we are very cautious the entire time of everything that's going on there.
Okay. So when you say when your members are there, non-members being Dave Schrader and his family that come to your seance, you're not going to open to something that might be outside of our comfort zone. When you're with people that are practitioners, people that know what they're doing, how to ground themselves, protect themselves, you're more open to both sides, correct?
Yes, we actually, when we have ours, even our member ones or non-member, we have board members that are there creating a safe barrier for everybody. That way people are protected. Because like Megan said, one of the places we do go, there are beings and entities already in that space that are free roaming, can do as they please. And so we just, again, to make everyone feel comfortable, but everyone knows they're welcome. We can stop the seance when we need to. Just please don't step out without us shutting down first, and then they can happily step out. We don't want anyone uncomfortable. We're trying to show it can be very safe and enjoyable.
Now, I've worked with a lot of different practitioners over the years that have a different way of embracing things, right? Because there's a yin to the yang, there's a good to the bad, there's a, holy to the unholy. And embracing both sides gives you more, I don't want to say clearance or more power over one or the other, but it can't all just be good. That doesn't mean you're trying to call in darkness, but you have to understand shadow work. You have to understand darkness and that they have to coexist. Is that true? And if so, how do you balance that? Because to us, horror movies, you let something dark in, the rest of the movie you're screwed, especially if you're black, a fat white guy that's funny, right? Or into sex, you're dead no matter what. Those are the three that you don't want to be in a horror movie. But when it comes to this kind of thing, how do you accept both sides of it and allow it in?
So personally, one of the examples I was going to actually use tonight, speaking of how to balance and do. So one of the folklores around here is our Appalachian storm hag. And so we recently, at our certain location that we go to that is open to all things, we held a conjure class through the society. We had a conjuring of a lighter deity, and they were summoned in, and then people had about a 30-minute break, an option to leave if they chose before we did a darker conjure. And we did summon the Appalachian storm hag. And so what we have been taught there, at least what I've taken away and do believe, is you learn in the dark and you bask in the light. And I do believe that the more I've worked in conjure and learning, I do believe having both. And I think the dark is subject to interpretation. The storm hag is often seen as like this dark woman who brings like chaos and storm. But what people don't realize is like, she's a destruction of nature to people who are bringing harm to the land, who are taking it for their own personal gain. Her stories are of wiping out men who are profiting off this land that was hers to love and nurture and is being taken. When you put it like that, think of it like a wolf. You're not going to be mad at a wolf for eating and shredding something, because that's what a wolf does. Some beings and entities are created to do something. You can't fault them for doing what they do.
So let me drop a knowledge bomb for those of you out there. For those of you out there shaking your finger and going, it sounds like she's just giving an excuse for evil. Remember the old saying, you don't mess with Mother Nature. Mother Nature is this beautiful, all-powerful, elemental being of earth who's there to protect and watch over. But when you tear too much down, you do too much damage, that's when it lashes out. That's when we have the thunderstorms and the lightning and the lightning strikes and the tornadoes and the tsunamis, right? That's the concept that within one being, brilliant, beautiful Mother Nature, there is also the storm hag side of her, right? That when you cross a boundary, you cross a line, what we perceive as evil is not evil. It is simply karma. It's the other side of what you're doing.
So what's interesting is with the light conjure we did that night, I was recently speaking with my friend and archaeologist Haley Ramsey, and she connected, as I was telling her about the storm hag, she was explaining that sounds a lot like, I may be saying this wrong and forgive me if I am, Kaliak, excuse me, who I went and did some research, is Bridget's counterpart in Celtic mythology, or maybe not mythology, but in Celtic lore, and therefore her story sounds so much like that. And we had summoned Bridget's that night as our lighter conjure. So we were doing, like you said, the yin and yang. That's why I smiled so hard. It's what we've been working on, is balance. Life is balance.
Well, hopefully life is balance. I brought up at the beginning of the show, 11 kids, 9 grandkids. Balance is always out of whack in the Schrader household. So this is great. Yeah, I love having conversations like this so that we can shed some light into the darkness, that we can take some of that stigma away, maybe give you a refreshing way to look at something, right? Because it's within all of us, there's light and darkness, right? There's the native indigenous people's thoughts of the two wolves that live within us, light and dark. Whichever is stronger is the one you feed more. If you're depressed and given to anger and anxiety, you'll feed that darker wolf. If you embrace love and acceptance and are part of nature, you'll feed the better half. But what you can and you need to do is keep both in check. You need to feed equally, because it's okay to have down days and be dark and depressed and then have the up days, right? I mean, some people are called bipolar for that. But the fact of the matter is that you do have to have that mid ground and try to walk that line and allow both sides to coexist, as opposed to letting one side or the other have its way.
That's what our friend Maeve explained when doing that conjure class, and she beautifully worded it. Yes.
People on here making some goofy comments about the magic. I should have thought of like condoms. Then I wouldn't have the 11 kids and 9. I don't believe in that kind of protection. I think that's crazy. That's the work of the devil, people. Let's do this. We have to take just a very quick break. We'll come back. We've got the amazing ladies of the Appalachian Séance Society here with us. We'll continue talking. I also want to hear about some of the legends and lore and strange beings. We heard about the hag. We've heard about some of the backstory of witchcraft and some of the seance work that they've done. But what about these beasties and creatures and things that go bump in the night that live out there. Is this really something that's part of the culture, or is it nothing more than stay away from my still? So I'm going to tell you about the wicked witch of the woods or the beast or this or that or the other. Are they more cautionary, or are they more rooted in truth? We'll discuss that and more when we return to the very best in paranormal programming. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is the Paranormal 60.
Oh, are you reading me? Come in. Hello? Greetings from the shadow, and welcome to Shadowzine. My name is Jeff Belanger. I'm an author, podcaster, and explorer of the unexplained. For 30 years, I've been investigating the paranormal, UFOs, monsters, and things that bump in the night. Lately, you may have noticed how major TV networks and even social media networks have been pushing our favorite subject back into the shadows. I say good. That's why I launched Shadowzine, a monthly underground publication that covers your favorite topics in depth by some of the leading writers and researchers out there. If you're looking for 30-second TikTok clips, go somewhere else. If you're ready for a deeper dive, put down your phone and pick up Shadowzine. You can't find it in stores. This is old school print. Head to shadowzine.com and be part of the underground revolution. That's shadowzine.com, and I'll see you in the shadow.
Are you feeling lost, stressed, wondering if Mercury is ruining your life again, or the universe is just ghosting you? Well, you're not alone. At Love and Lotus Tarot, I keep it real. No crystal balls, no woohoo, just honest, grounded guidance to help you navigate life's chaos. Whether you need clarity on love, career, or just anything that feels like a mess, I've got you. Here's something really cool. In between tarot sessions with me, I just put out this new journal book, your very own purge journal. Don't hang on to all that angst and all that stress and all that anger. Get rid of it. Whether it's valid or not, you still have that emotion just eating away at you. So purge them onto paper, scream it, shout it, get it out. They're available right now on Amazon. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description below. Or just visit me at lovelotustarot.com and purchase your purge journal there. Visit lovelotustarot.com to book a reading, check out some of the new merch, and find the insight you've been searching for. Because let's be honest, therapy is expensive and my cards are way cooler anyways. So head on over to lovelotustarot.com now and let's figure out this thing called life together.
We are back, and the ladies of the Appalachian Séance Society are here with us, Megan Mitchell and Haley Staack. And let's start talking about some of the interesting folklore and stories of the Appalachian area. And the two that kind of got under my skin and creeped me out just reading about them. And you'd think at my ripe old age and having worked in the paranormal field for 19 years, there'd be very little that's left that makes me feel creeped out. But that you're not supposed to whisper in the woods, and should something call your name, you should never respond. Are you guys familiar with these strands of folklore?
So we have heard of them for
Okay.
sure. So I think it's whistling. Maybe I haven't heard the whispering. I've heard you're not supposed to whistle.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it is whistling, but I whistle all the time. So I was trying to comfort myself that it would be whispering, which I never do in the woods. So whistle. Why not whistling?
Megan, do you want to? I feel like I talked your ear off a second ago.
No, that's totally fine. That's why you're here. It's a talk show. Megan, why not whistling? Is there something inherently irritating about that to the fae folk, the elementals, the beasties and creatures of the woods?
From what I've heard with whistling, it's that it will bring in the creatures from the woods. But I don't whistle at night. I stay away from doing that.
Well, I guess you're right. I hear whistling in the graveyard, you're not supposed to do as well, because then you're just drawing them to your attention, right? And to think about that, my kids love when we go to the store together, because we can spread out in the store and they always know how to find me because I'm the only idiot in there walking around whistling. So, and I'm not like, it's not one of, I'm just whistling some happy tune as I'm going through the Little Debbie snack cakes, because that's how I work. And, I've just got that going, but they can find me. So I guess in that same instance, you whistle, you might draw the attention of something you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now,
That's
what
what
about
with that
what
lore.
about this folklore? If you hear something call your name, don't respond.
So that is this newer thing that
Okay.
is. I even reached out to someone else because I'm like, I've not heard this personally. So I don't want to say it's not real. I think some of the lore in Appalachia also is like regional. So like you'll have different parts have different cryptids and things. So what they're talking about there is like what we feel in the Appalachian Conjure Man I consulted with. It's the Wendigo thing that everyone's talking about.
Okay.
So, and what that should, my thoughts on that personally and how I feel about it, it is tied with an indigenous tribe. It's actually a northeastern tribe, not even southern Appalachia, but it got hit on in TikTok like a couple years ago, and people have just ran with it. Again, not saying they're not real, they're not a thing. It's a regional thing and should also, just like skinwalkers, it's a tribal entity. Something that we don't often associate with. There are other beings out there, but that's the big one that people have been running with for a few years. And I'll just be the Debbie Downer about it. I'm sorry.
Well, it almost sounds like the siren song, right? That if you hear this lovely singing coming from something, you're not supposed to approach the water bank, because that's what they're doing, is trying to lure you in. So if they're calling your name, they're trying to get you maybe deeper into the woods where they can cut you off from others, or something dark can happen to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, my nature though, being in nature, somebody starts calling my name, I'm going to think, oh, maybe they have Little Debbie snack cakes, and I'll head in. That's why I don't go out into the wilderness too often, ladies. It's just not safe for me. And I'm always thinking maybe there's a Little Debbie snack cake waiting for me.
I mean, I'm with you on the Little Debbie snack cakes.
Which is weird, because she doesn't live in a tree and make cookies like the Keebler elves. You'd think I'd be looking for those guys, but there's something a little shady about those guys. That's all I'm going to say.
I think a lot of our lore also stems, like we have like cougars and stuff that mountain lions, excuse me, they scream. So if you look on like YouTube or somewhere, they sound like a child screaming. So I think, and then we have certain owls that do have a whistle. And so that's like associated with nighttime sounds. Again, we have a lot of weird things in the woods, and you won't catch me out there whispering, yelling, screaming, whistling, none of the things at night, because there is nature. And then I do believe there are things that are out there, paranormal.
All right. Well, Megan, some of the folklore I often think is nothing more than just, kind of Scooby-Doo stuff. It's, you don't want to go near the old haunted amusement park, or killer clown will get you. It's just that we don't want idiot kids going out to the old amusement park and getting cut on rusty razor, wire at the top of the fences, or, tripping and getting hurt in there. So you tell them the story about the killer clown, or you tell them about the gator man, or you tell them about something, and it's more out of necessity to control than it is because somebody saw a killer clown or somebody saw the gator man. That's been my belief. But is there more that leans into the fact that there's some more reality behind these threats than we give credit to?
I do think that there are definitely things out in these mountains. The Appalachian Mountains are older than Bones itself. It's part of the Scottish Highlands. These mountains are very, very old. There are very ancient things here. There's a lot of old energy. And there are stories of cryptids that we do have. And normally when we get those stories, it is in a light from English colonists and the settlers that were here. But a lot of those stories have very similar counterparts in indigenous communities that are local to this area too. There are two creatures that are like that. One of them being, we call it the wood booger around here. He's also known as Sasquatch or Bigfoot, but in Southwest Virginia, in like the Norton and Wise area, there's a wood booger festival that they do, and there's been some supposed sightings of him. And there are some.
That is weird, because I've heard the woolly booger, the wood booger, the big booger. I want to know how it went from wild man of Appalachia, or the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the skookum. That's another version I've heard from that area. But then the booger. That's just
So apparently that was from using the boogeyman as a story. So they would tell kids, don't go into the woods because the wood booger is going to get you. And so that was kind of how that name in this area developed.
unbelievable, crazy stuff. But you do have a lot of history and darkness and people that go missing without a trace and are never seen again. But again, we forget just how much wildlife is out there and what wildlife is capable of doing in a very short amount of time.
There's multiple missing people within my county right now. It's
Do you ever
Yeah.
get together with your again, forgive me for my ignorance, your coven, your gaggle, I don't know what it's called, the group of people that you all work with. Do you ever get together and try to communicate with the spirits of the woods to find these missing people?
We haven't done anything to that extent so far,
Okay.
because that does require working with local law enforcement. But that is something that I would definitely consider doing in the future. It's just
Well,
finding the
I
right
would
person
say
who I guess would be okay with us.
I'm sure there's a lot of families that would love any kind of insight that could be given, right? I don't think you'd necessarily need law enforcement. You might if they give you a detailed explanation that, and you might want to just film it. But if you're working with spirit, with the elements, with the creatures of the woods, the ancestors that give you that insight, filming yourself walking out there going, listen, this is what we're being told. We're going to go out here. And if you find a body, you find somebody, you've got it videotaped. That's where you stop. You drop a pin, you call the cops and tell them how to get to you. I don't think you need the police necessarily. I just, after the fact, yes, once you've pinpointed that area, you don't want to touch anything. You don't want to inject your DNA into that area, which could end up, no, the ghosts told you about it, Haley. Then why is your hair on the face of the murder victim, right? Because you bent down to look. Yeah, he's dead, all right. So you might want to try it. But I'm just curious if, I hear about mediums that come out and they connect.
Mhm.
I would think that a group of practitioners, mediums, psychics, witches coming together, calling on that same force, could they get a better answer for something like that?
That's actually very interesting. Because recently, speaking of that, I've done that with animals, and I don't know honestly why I haven't thought to do that with missing people, because I have a relationship with the Fae, and so and I know that's a hit or miss with people, but I do, and I have asked them to tell their friends, hey, can you tell so-and-so's animal to please go home? Call it what you want, the animals come home later, and that's a real, noting that down now.
Just remember, when you get your first Nobel Peace Prize for finding bodies, you just thank me in the. Wouldn't that be great to see some witches end up with the Nobel Peace Prize for helping find people and bring them back together?
My hillbilly family be
I would
happy.
just be happy to be able to help people and
right.
Flip
Dizzy, thank you for the $4 super sticker. I appreciate that. Super sticker, super like, super chats are all on. If you feel like giving and you want to, I'm here to accept your cash, folks. So go ahead and give. Tonight we're talking with the Appalachian Séance Society. I'm sorry I have to keep looking up as I'm saying it because words can be hard. And running those three words together, I'm just always afraid I'm going to say something really dumb. So I'm trying to be very cautious when saying that.
There's an acronym for it too.
What is that? Oh, yes, I guess there is, isn't there? Yeah. And if I join, I'd be the big one of the group, wouldn't I? Yeah. I like that. I can play in that field. All right. So let's talk about some of the other things. Now, Wendigo. This is, I believe you're not even supposed to speak its name, kind of like Skinwalker, right? It can reportedly come to you because you're saying its name. You're getting its attention because you're speaking it. What exactly is the concept of it? I was first introduced to the concept of the Wendigo reading what I think is still one of the most terrifying books I've ever read, Pet Cemetery. by Stephen King, right? And he talks about how the Wendigo spoiled the ground. That's where they're burying all their pets that come back. And as he's trying to climb over the thicket, he can hear the howling and screams of the Wendigos. Those images still terrify me, and they never did a good job of that in the movies. But the way Stephen King wrote about it. But what do we know about the Wendigo and some of the other folklore surrounding it? What are the actual stories as opposed to what Hollywood has tried to tell us?
All that I personally know, again, it's tied with the cultural like tribes and each tribe has theirs. What I did know is I did write down they are tied with forgive me if I say this wrong, I believe it's Algonquin tribe.
Oh, that's right.
Again, a northeastern tribe. And from what I've read and understand, they're related with famine in the winter and dark. And so therefore, like if you are forced into famine during the winter and you have to eat another person, you have a chance of becoming a Wendigo. And therefore they will hunt and feed off people. And that's again, what I've read and been able to gather, but not being part of the tribe, I can't tell you specifics.
You can tell me, Megan, is she part of the tribe? Is she eating people? Is Haley, in fact, a Wendigo?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Nice cover. I don't know that I could trust either one of you. Look at you. Yeah, both. See, folks, this is why you got to watch the show live, because not only do you get to see us and hear us, but you get to see the knowing glances these two women share with each other when maybe I'm getting a little too close to the truth. Pushing just a little too far to try to understand things.
You'll just have to join the Séance Society.
I was going to say, come join us in the woods.
Yeah, right. Sure. What, are you going to call my name? I'm not supposed to respond to that. Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that? I got to go outside real quick. I'll be right back. So talk to me. You gifted me something very kind. You gifted me 4 railroad spikes, railroad ties with some little things put on them. Give me the concept of this. I know one is north, south, east, and west, but I'm just trying to make it sound like it's more mystical than it is. So that's, I'm going to guess, where you put them in your property. Joke's on you. I don't know my north, east, southwest, so I'm most likely going to put them in all the wrong places. But what is the concept behind these spikes and what they do to protect or perhaps draw things to my home?
No. So the iron spikes, the rail spikes are used in Appalachian Magick, and a lot of that, the rail spikes were used, they were brought from like the hoodoo culture into Appalachia because the iron and the rail and driving it in. So with that, you take them and you drive them in at the 4 corners of your property, and it creates a ward of protection for you and your home and that your property and space. I've put them on mine. I create a ward and make offerings with the land spirits, and they protect my space. So that certain set was created. It was special because I had used it I had done the ritual under a full moon in Leo for Megan's sign, and then had used Capricorn moon water. It's my sign, to form our energy together too, because I think we're pretty badass. So that helped people.
I like it. Thank you very much. And I know Shane appreciates it as well. You sent a set to Shane. I know his wife wanted to know why 2 beautiful women are sending him gifts. And then he goes, honey, they're railroad spikes that we hammer into our yard. So, you know,
they will protect her as well. Anyways,
yes.
Really, it was just the courtesy of giving them to Shane.
Likely
he thought
story.
He was the recipient.
Yeah, exactly. I like this. Sybil Winfield goes, I just saw Dave dancing naked in the woods. Yeah, no, you didn't, Sybil. And if you guys tell me that's how I'm supposed to put the railroad spikes in my yard, is out there dancing naked, oh, there's going to be calls to the police. I guarantee you if that happens. There's a Wendigo out there. This giant white pasty thing is dancing around, hammering stuff in the ground. And that's going to be for my wife. You never can tell. Let's do this. We have to take another very quick break. We'll come back. We've got more to discuss, and we'll do that when we return to the very best in paranormal programming. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is the Paranormal 60.
Did you know that radio just got a little extraterrestrial? That's right, Dave Schrader is back on radio with the Paranormal 360 every Sunday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. Central on WCCO AM 830, an Odyssey station. Just download the Odyssey app and look for the WCCO logo, follow the station, and listen live. That's the Paranormal 360 on WCCO AM 830 and Odyssey station.
I try to make it as easy as I can, folks. In the description for each episode that you're watching of the Paranormal 60 or listening to, I put a link so that you can find the audio versions of my WCCO show, and you can continue to listen there. As a matter of fact, if you missed this last weekend, it was a great show. Ed and Lorraine inside the Warrens' conjuring files. We talked with Mr. Frankie about that. We also talked about possessions, about protection, and other aspects of the paranormal for hour 2. If you follow my social media, if you go there at the top of my Facebook page, I have it pinned right there, so it's very easy to find. I try to post the links on my X account, my Instagram, and on my Facebook. And for those of you in MySpace land, I'll go back if that's where you're still listening. But check it out. And it's, when we say Odyssey, just so you know, it's not Odyssey, it's Odyssey. AUDACY is the parent company, and that is where the podcast lives. But it's also on just about any other platform. Just look for Paranormal 360, and you'll get even more paranormal content every week from yours truly. All right, tonight we are joined and talking with Megan Mitchell, Haley Staack of the Appalachian Séance Society. See, my brain's starting to break now because I'm questioning the way I'm saying the words. Beforehand, I'm like, Appalachian. And Megan told me, it's like, if you don't get it right, I'm going to throw an Appalachia. And now it's in my brain, but I'm still afraid I'm misremembering, because that's what happens when you get to be old, ladies. That's what happens. Do you believe in actual magic? Right? I think some people are drawn to it because they see the movie The Craft or Practical Magic, and they think there's going to be little sparkles, and bunnies are going to run up and deliver you roses, or so. I don't know what kind of mindset people have, but is there something to real actual magic? Or is it what we call intention in other parts of the field? It's manifestation.
So for me, in my practice, I don't have a magic wand that I have sparks that fly out of or anything like that.
Heathen, burn the witch.
Sort of, my belief in magic, like you were saying, is intention. And we are the magic. Our intention is the magic. The work that we do, that is the magic. And just being in the world, getting to experience the worlds, that is magic in and of itself.
I like that. Haley, what's your thoughts?
Magic to me is a neutral energy that we can all pull from and make it what we want. I believe in rituals. I'm a ritualistic girl. I love it. But I think real, true magic is found in each day when I stir my coffee, saying my intent and purposes for the day. I think magic comes when I am with people I care about, sharing things I care about. That's where I think real magic starts. It's in my garden when I'm thinking through things. That's where magic really is for me. I think it can be a part of everyone's day.
Here, let's drop a little knowledge bomb on our listeners, especially those skeptics out there who do not believe in the power of magic. I'm willing to believe that at some point in your life, you created a playlist to work out, to maybe send to that special person, songs that you curated, you hand selected or ear selected. I'm not sure what the proper terminology is for this, put together to give to somebody. You don't think that was a form of a love spell? You were sending this person intention. You were manifesting your love through the words of ABBA or Seals and Croft. People don't know who that is anymore. Or maybe through Taylor Swift, right? Mm-hmm. Magic is incantations. Magic comes from, music comes from magic as well. So we do that. Prayer, my friends, is a form of magic. Prayer is an incantation. Right. And for those of you that say, oh, yeah, but you don't say it all sing-songy and rhymey-timey. Well, go read the Song of Solomon book in the Bible. It's very rhymey-timey, biblical versions of it. Right. And he's trying to conjure and manifest the perfect woman as he talks about her breasts like the, even shorn sheep and whatever, he's basically manifesting and putting an intention to what he wants, to the love he's looking for. That's always been a part of our lives. It's always been a part of it. So whether you don't believe that you practice witchcraft, you do. You just don't call it witchcraft. You call it prayer or Christianity.
We've
Or
all blown out birthday candles before and made a wish.
yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, tune in on Wednesday, folks, for the news, because we were just out at the Palmer House Hotel where we were doing a very fun event. And there was a young man there that was celebrating his 21st birthday. And we caught a really cool video. We were all there singing to him. The young man is sitting there with a cake with a candle and sitting across from him, videotaping it as his father. And there's nobody else there. And as everybody's singing and they end the song, a breath blows out the candle and the boy looks down real quick and then looks back up. It wasn't him and it wasn't his father. Something blew out the candle. And then I was like, well, that's funny. Somebody blew it out. I was also reminded there was a fire that burned down the Palmer House at one time. So it could have been one of its guardians trying to make sure that we didn't let that happen again. But I'll show that video. They've given me permission to share it on the show, but I'll share that again on this Wednesday's show. So tune in and check it out. But you're right. Blowing the candle out, making a wish on a falling star. I love how many people will tell me, I'm not into paranormal things. Hey, don't walk underneath that ladder. Hey, don't, you spilled salt, throw it over your left shoulder, right? Don't let that black cat cross your path. How many things that we do accept supernatural? How many guys will not shave until their team loses because they don't want to change anything about them? That's all magic, man. It's all part of your intention to put out to the universe. And I say these things because I want to make the world a little smaller and less scary for people. And once we start realizing how much we do have in common, we just call it spirit, school spirit or spirit for our favorite sports or incantation or seance. It's the same thing. Right? We're calling, I can't tell you how many times I've called upon the football gods who are not listening in the state of Minnesota, by the way. Fair warning. They don't care. The football gods have turned their back on us in Minnesota. But I believe that eventually we will get the attention of the football gods again and things will be beautiful in the state of Minnesota. But we all do these things and it's pretty remarkable. And there is magic in those moments, right? How many of you have felt something wholeheartedly in your soul that if you do this right now, right here, what you want's going to have happen? And as soon as you do, it's like magic had happened.
We have here in Appalachia, and I've actually seen it done firsthand, so I can say it happened. When someone has thrush in the mouth, if you can find someone who's not met their biological father, and there are specifics in certain, again, regions, it could be a guy or a girl, but hasn't met them, and have them blow on your mouth, that the thrush will go. And I had a lady I worked with going through thrush. Nothing was working. And they were like, call in so-and-so. He's never met his dad. And let him blow on her tongue. He showed up and did it. And it started healing the next day. We also have
I just met my biological father a few years ago. Who knew I could have been a healer?
You could have been curing thrush.
I know sometimes it's like the seventh son of the seventh son that has healing powers.
Yes.
Or there's a lot or twins sometimes. They say one can have these healing powers and stuff. It's really cool.
All right. Well, let's talk about a couple more folklore bits before we have to say goodbye. Time is moving quick on us this evening. What are some of the other fun, weird legends and lore that you have in the Appalachian area by you?
Let's see. Is there anything from Tennessee, Haley, that you wanted to?
So we have Wampus Cat. That's pretty universal in like Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and I believe Kentucky. Yes, Kentucky as well. So it's a six-legged Black Panther thing, and it like walks on two legs and then has four for fighting in some of the stories, but it traces back to Cherokee and
the legend of Running Deer. Is Cherokee story. And it was a woman who was not supposed to go out and she wasn't supposed to, the men always went out hunting. The women were not supposed to. She went out and I think found her husband cheating or it was something along those lines. And so then the story she turned into this vengeful creature. There are also stories from English settlers that have accounts saying that it was a woman who walked in on a ritual, and then so the medicine man turned her into the Wampus cat. So there's multiple different accounts with it.
Why is it that all the women get the bad rap? It's always a spurned woman, right? La Llorona. I can't say that word either. The Wampus cat. It's all women that were spurned, treated poorly, and then they turned into some beast. Yeah. Typical male, right? Blame it on the woman and then call them a monster.
We also
Can I get a snap for that, ladies?
Yes.
I got a question from Scouse. Can you explain the brooms and witches, if possible, please? Is it a thing or any history behind it and why?
As far as the history, I don't know too much with the history, but I can say that a practice that I have and that I know is in Appalachia is placing a broom above your door as a sign of protection. And you can also place one by your door. And they say that if it accidentally falls over, you're going to have unexpected company coming over, which is very true. I've seen it happen. And there's a few other different things that can happen with it that ties to what it does.
Brooms are also important sweeping out. Like you can put salt in our house. We'll do salt in the house, and then you sweep it towards the door, sweep it out. I don't sweep it into the ground. Nobody worry. But I sweep out all the salt because it cleanses the house. And another Appalachian, and I think they do it in other parts of the world, where you jump over the broom in a newlywed couple into your home. You can go over the broom and the door front.
That was actually started from a lot of African cultures because it was illegal for enslaved people to get married. And so jumping the broom was a way for them to celebrate their union without actually being able to get married.
Yes.
Very cool. See, you learned something new. All right, I'm going to throw a term at you. Let's see. I want to see hands up first, ladies. Don't blurt out the answer. We'll call on the first one. The first one of you that gets it right, I'm going to send you out your own little box of Zellman's Minty Mouth Mints. All right? I'm going to say the term haint blue. Oh, Haley was quick. Okay, Haley, haint blue.
I paint when we built our house, the tops of my ceilings are haint blue to keep the haints away. You got to have haint blue, and it's a specific color I asked them for.
And you have to, like, on the porch too, right?
It's on my porches, on the ceiling of the porches. Some people do their whole porch. I did the roof because I have a black house. It had to be all black. But all of the ceilings are haint blue. So they actually don't make that specific color anymore, so they got me the closest one.
They got
it's
you
very
blue.
Close to the color of the sky. And so it's actually really great too because it helps keep some bugs away and wasps.
Yes.
Oh, really?
As well as the haints. So
what is it? The concept is the ghost is so dumb he's going to be like, but it go in this. Oh, that's not a house. It's just more sky.
Yes.
Wow. Ghosts are dumb.
That's also the blue bottles. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen a yard of blue bottles with the blue bottle? It looks like a tree. It's to catch haints.
So they just step into the bottle?
They do. They can't get out of them.
So a ghost can go through walls. A ghost can go through time. A ghost can poke you. A ghost can slide into a bottle, but then he's like, oh, how did I get in here? Why do I get out again?
If a genie can do it, a ghost should be able to do it.
Right, so should I do that? Should I be running around in all those southern yards, rubbing on the bottles real quick to try to release all the spirits back into the world? What are those? They're called what? Spirit bottles or
yes,
spirit trees? Yeah, those are pretty cool. I have thought, as a matter of fact, just the other day when I was going through the G-Dub, which is my fancy way of saying Goodwill, I was looking at all the different colored bottles and I was thinking, man, if I had a cool tree out front, I'd just take a bunch of these and tie them up. I didn't know that it meant I was capturing ghosts because that feels like, kind of icky. I don't want to catch the ghost.
Just the main ones. It's the haints.
Oh, the haints go in there?
It's the haints to catch the haints.
Yeah, I know. I had friends that lived near Hainted Holler, which I thought haint was just hill people's way of saying haunted. Am I wrong? I don't. Hill people is probably the wrong
spirit.
answer. Oh, an angsty little spirit.
Agitated.
I have two of those. They're called teenage daughters. They're very angsty. Very irritated. Ladies, thank you. It's such a pleasure and fun chat to have with you. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your insights and stories and thoughts. And I know watching the audience, they've loved hearing from you as well. I'd love to have you back on in the future as more things come up, or if there's more topics you think would be fun and topical, or a way we can tear the top off of misconceptions together. Let's do that.
Thank you so much for having us on, Dave.
Yes, thank you so much. We were honored.
Well, oh, wow. Honored. Listen to that, folks. Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the education and the things that you share, not just with me, with all the people that come to see you at events as well. So from spectral summoning to spellcraft in the pines, tonight we explored the spirits, stories, and strange happenings of Appalachia, a land alive with folklore, steeped in mystery and buzzing with the energy of things most fear to speak of. Are you one of those people? Are you feared to speak about some aspects of the paranormal because it might come to you? The Wendigo, the Skinwalker, the Haints? I'm curious. I'd love to hear from you. Dave at paranormal60.com. Let's hear about it. Let's hear about the things you believe. And if you want me to read those letters anonymously, I will. A huge thank you to Haley Staack and Megan Mitchell for pulling back the cloak of secrecy, guiding us through the world of Appalachian monsters and magic. And may the darkness of this world be just a little brighter with the information that we share here on my Paranormal 60.